Hi everyone, thanks for watching our series of overdrive videos. Wanted to give you guys some initial impressions, some feedback, lessons learned now that we've had some water time with it. Chang, Laura, and I took it out for about 2.5 hours on the Mississippi River. We were able to get some good water time in. Not ideal conditions because we're pedaling against the current, up current, and then against heavy winds down current, but we were able to get a good feel for it. So there's 4 main things that I learned from this time on the water that I want to share with you guys so you can enjoy your overdrive right out of the gate. I'll be your guinea pig. So first things first, with anything retrofit, there's always a concern that it'll feel like it was an afterthought. It's not the case with the overdrive. It's actually very solid. There is an adjustment I found out on the water that will make it feel not retrofitty, if you will. I noticed there was a lot of up and down play when I was pedaling. The unit was kind of bobbing up and down. There's actually an adjustment right here on the head unit that I'll show you to prevent that from happening. That will make it a lot snugger in your kayak. The first thing is this bump stop. There's 2 bump stops, one on either side. In my install video I mentioned making sure the arms of the unit hit those when you lower it. There's actually more to that now that I've had it on the water. So I'll show you, I moved mine back to factory. I'll show you how they're set up. So this is in the lockdown position, and the arms, if I push snug down on the unit, the arms do hit the bump stop here, but you'll notice there's up and down play. So in order to fix that, what you want to do is loosen these Allen screws with the lock pins in place. Slide this bump stop up a little bit so there's some adjustment. It can go up and down. Tighten. Now you'll notice there's 0 play, and that's even after just doing the one side. Obviously you want to repeat on the other side. So both sides are done. Now there's 0 play. I push down on it, it's rock solid. The other thing adjusting those does for us is keeps this gasket in here. There's a rubber gasket around the unit. It keeps that nice and tight against the hull. So if you have play in it and it's going up and down, that gasket kind of acts like a, I guess, a plunger, and it'll rock in there and it's not as watertight. So that should help as well. The other thing you want to do, and I mentioned this in the install video, is put these shims that comes with the unit, put them around the unit so it's in there nice and tight. I'm actually going to add some more shims to mine. It's not the end of the world, but once it's in there nice and snug, there's a lot more power obviously coming from your legs, so there will be some wiggle if it's not in there super snug. So I'm actually putting shims on both sides just to make sure it's in there nice and tight. The other thing that I would change about my setup is the placement of this handle. I had it so the handle was faced inward, in towards the deck. On mine, it was fine once I got used to it. It was kind of nice because the handle was right under my leg when the seat was up, and it would kind of rest on the seat. But it is kind of awkward, especially if you're wearing a lot of clothing like I was since it was so cold out. So definitely recommend that you start with the handle out, which is what the instructions say to do. I figured I'd try it in, see if it made any difference. But definitely prefer the handle facing outward. And to change that, you simply loosen this Allen bolt, remove the handle from the arm, and switch. So now this is installed in the proper position. This is exactly what the instructions say to do. I can't recall why I decided to deviate from that, but this is certainly the preferred position. Alright, the fourth thing you want to check, and Headwaters Kayak did a good video on the Overdrive. Definitely want to check that out. But they had mentioned this too, is make sure these nuts right here in the prop are tight. It's just an Allen nut inside. Those pinch the shear pin in the prop together, keep it in place. If those are loose from shipping, manufacturer, or whatever, it can bend the pin. It's not the end of the world because they ship an extra shear pin with the unit and you can get more from FeelFree, but just a preventative maintenance thing. Like anything that moves, just make sure everything's tight as expected. So some other things to consider, just from our use of it, make sure you bring the Allen keys, the Allen wrenches that were included with the kit, all the sizes, just in case. Just in case you didn't get something tight enough during the install, or if something else is loose on it, so you can adjust it, or you could get one of those standard multi-tools for bikes, same thing. It's a good idea to have. I didn't have any issues. I did forget to tighten my one crank arm all the way, and that came loose a little bit. The arm itself wasn't loose, just the bolt I could see sticking out, so I tightened that up and then it was fine. The storage container in the drive itself was actually very handy. I had my car keys in there along with a few other things, and it all stayed dry. So as far as the seat adjustment, I'm 5'11" and change. I had big boots on, multiple layers of clothing. I had it in the all the way back position, which was comfortable for me. I'm a cyclist, so I liked my knee extended quite a ways. Chang, he's a shorter guy, he had the seat all the way up, but it was comfortable for him. So this unit was very easy to pedal. With the, I believe it's 12-to-1 gear ratio, I was a little concerned, but it was fine. I was able to hold, based on the GPS on my action cam, a couple miles an hour into the current pretty easily. I think the current was around 1.5 miles per hour against me. And if you guys have paddled the lure in a river, you know paddling against the current is difficult. So I had no problems. At no time was I concerned or anything. So I was very impressed by that. It does take some getting used to. Like I'm sure the rest of you, you have a routine when getting on the water. You have a routine when getting settled for fishing, what have you. Having the hand control and the pedals instead of a paddle was a little awkward for me at first. I was very comfortable with it after half an hour of just trying it out. I actually prefer the hand control over the foot control. It allows me to fish and change my rudder. I can even stand up and reach down and move the rudder rather than trying to kick the pedals if I'm standing and fishing. So that was great. It was also great to be able to back pedal against the current as needed on the river. It also took me a little bit just to get used to raising and lowering the unit, so highly recommend you practice that just a couple times. It's just those two pins like I showed you before, up and down. You have to make sure you center the prop with that button in the middle. It's not difficult by any means, just again it's just something different. It's different than just snapping your paddle into the paddle holder. So get used to that. Definitely practice in calm water. The current was pretty swift to the Mississippi. Not terrible, but we had to paddle back upstream a little bit while we were messing around with the unit. So one thing that came up is the noise. People have been mentioning that. I mean, all pedal drives have noise. We know that. It's a mechanical device. The drive itself, I don't think it's loud on the water. A lot of the noise that you hear in the video is reverberating through the hull because I didn't have anything in my hull. Usually I have a dry bag with safety gear, an extra life jacket, what have you. I think that would cut down on the vibration a lot. The other thing is, like anything else mechanical, once it breaks in, it'll get quieter. I know other pedal drive kayaks had the same thing where they're a tad noisy at the beginning and then they quiet down substantially once the gears break in. So I'm by no means concerned about that. I mean, trolling motors, anything's loud. I thought it was just fine and expect it to get even better as it breaks in. Also in the cold temperatures we were in, I was impressed in how it performed. Typically that thing makes things noisier, so very happy with that. Another question we've received in the time that we've had the videos out and after the demo is, what do you do with the old hole for the nub down here that the sonar pod goes into? We were on the water for 2.5 hours in pretty choppy conditions, and the inside of the hull was bone dry. I'll take the unit out here and show you. So you can see that hole right here, from where that rubber nub was to hold the sonar pod in, is actually covered pretty tightly by the pedal drive itself. So I wouldn't expect it to be an issue. My plan is to probably fill that with silicone or hot glue, something like that, just to plug it up, just in case, but I don't see it being an issue, like I said. So a question I've been asked is, can I paddle this boat, take it on a shallow river after I convert to overdrive? Absolutely. The beautiful thing about this platform is it's stable, it turns sharp, and it's still narrow enough to paddle because it's originally a paddle boat. The hand control I found is a lot more sensitive in the foot pedal, so it takes a lot less effort to turn and keep those pedals aligned. So I actually prefer that, and then you can also adjust that while fishing. If you're standing up, you don't have to kick at the pedals like I mentioned before. So then the question is, what do I do with the sonar pod hole? Because if you're not going to use a pedal drive because you're in a super shallow creek, what have you, obviously you just don't want that extra space on your deck if you're not going to use it. So here we have the parts, the original parts that I saved from my install video for the pod. It's just a simple 2 screws to install the clip here, and then reinstalling the nub in the front. I'm not going to tighten it down because I'm not going to leave mine in, but I just want to demonstrate that it is possible. So then here's my original pod. In it goes, plenty of clearance. Again, just those 2 screws up here for the latch. I mean, you wouldn't have to put it in, but then your pod would be vulnerable to popping out if you were to hit something or whatever. And as you can see here, plenty of room between the bracket for the overdrive and the pod. I actually modified my pod to have a hinge, and even so, that opens up as if it weren't even there. No interference whatsoever. So I'm really impressed with the thought and engineering that went into this to make it such a versatile boat. It really makes it the Swiss Army knife of boats. So you've got this ultra stable platform, excellent customer service from FeelFree, high quality. You're converting this paddle boat into a pedal boat without having to buy a whole new boat. And then you can also switch between pedal, motor, and then back to your standard pod if you'd like. All with the same boat, same platform. They did a really great job of thinking this out. So to go back to your pedal drive from the sonar pod, simply pull the pod out like you normally would. And then you would take this clip out, mine's already out, on the front. And then you'd remove the nub here on the front. And then the overdrive will go right back in as if you hadn't even done that. There we go. Thank you guys again for watching. Appreciate it. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to comment below. Happy to answer any questions that we can. We will be at the Wisconsin Fishing Expo in Madison, Wisconsin at the end of February, so if you guys are going to be there, stop by. We'll be in the kayak corridor, which is a new feature of that show. Small craft outfitters will be there with this boat, this unit, so you can lay your eyes and hands on it firsthand. Happy to answer any questions. We can also take orders for any units for anyone locally.